Woohoo! Is this rinky dink or what? Look at this little thing. Whoa, look at that. That's kind of pretty, really, and it's kind of small. Look, there's my hand. There's my hand. This is a very small mini quad. So let's take a look at it. Yes, this is another mini quad from ViFly, ViFly. There's the book, there's the writing. It is the R130, so it's a mini quad. It's one of the little ones, and with the, I don't know, regulations, this is sub 250 grams sometimes. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But it's small. It's got orange propellers, it's got red so it won't show the blood, and it has all the nice features of the other ViFlies. That is to say, this little LED display here shows you a lot of information. It'll show you the channel you're on, it'll show you battery voltage and other bits and pieces. That's really, really good to know. It says it's got an F4 flight controller, so should be pretty nimble, pretty good. It's quite well designed. I like the mechanical layout of this thing. Nice thick arms. You can see the arms quite thick there. That's going to be wonderful. You're not going to break those arms. The motors are 1306 4100 kV. It's got clockwise, counterclockwise with the little nuts accordingly. One downside, let me talk about a few negatives. I only got one set of props. Seriously? I mean, do you know what I'm going to do to this thing? Now, admittedly, small props don't break nearly so easy as big props. So these might be fine. We'll find out, because I'm going to thrash the ring off it, see how it holds up to punishment. But I would have liked to have seen a spare pair, at least one spare set of props, because they're not expensive. And as we know, if you buy one of these things and you go out and fly on a Sunday and you break a prop and you don't have a spare, ruins your day. So come on, ViFly, throw in some spare props. It's not going to break the bank. Okay, well protected cloverleaf antenna. It's protected because if we look carefully, you can see the battery is going to sit in front of that. So this is really, I don't know how you're going to break that. And it seems to be, it's mounted to the circuit board down here, which is probably the only weak area, but it does have this metal frame around it here, which is going to protect it to a degree. So we'll see how that pans out. It may be a good, strong aerial. It may not. I don't know. Another negative. This is a negative for me. It may not be a negative for you. Look. See that? It's not an XT60, it's not a JST, it's not a Dean's, it's an XT30. And XT30s are great little plugs. Fantastic for this sort of thing because they're small, they're light, and they'll carry 30 amps of current. A JST, really, it starts getting a bit hot and flustered at much over 5 amps. You get into 10 amps, it's starting to get a bit worried. So, yeah, JSTs are probably not a good look for something with this much power because these little motors will probably put out quite a bit of pep. But by the same token, I have one battery with an XT30 on it, which is it's this one. This is my only XT30 battery. This came with another mini quad like the the Baby Hawk, and this battery is crap. It lasts 1.5 minutes. I don't know how many milliamps it is because it is uber generic. Look, nothing, but it's got lovely carbon fiber print on it. Must be good. No, this really just doesn't hold up at all. It's a 3-cell. I would pick, it's probably about 300 milliamps because when it comes flat and I charge it up, it takes about 150 milliamps. So it's really, yeah. So I'll try it with this, but seriously, I don't think it's going to really provide enough juice to fly this thing. And if it doesn't, then I've got to look at other options. Now, what I did was, rather than go and change the batteries on, or change the connectors on some of my batteries, because most of them have either JST or an XT60, I wanted to be able to use those batteries in the other models that I fly. So I thought, yeah, I'll make up some adapter leads. So I made up a JST to XT30, and I made up an XT60 to XT30. So if you're going to buy this thing, you need to be either able to make your own leads up, or buy some leads, or get some batteries with an XT30 connector. Now the book says it'll take from a 554 cell up to an 853 cell. Now, unfortunately, I don't have batteries that fit that. I've got an 803 cell, I've got an 854 cell, and an 853 cell. That's probably what I'm going to use. I also have a 450 3 cells. That's 1, 2, 3 cells, yeah. So I've got a range of batteries. We'll try them out and see what difference weight makes. And speaking of weight, as we all know, regulators are completely stupid, and they've decided that you have to be under 250 grams to be safe these days. So a lot of countries, 250 grams is the cutoff point where you can actually not have to deal with some of the lamest regulations. So what does this thing weigh? It's going to be really important to find out what it weighs. Now the bare model, all set to go except for a battery, weighs 169 grams. So you're going to, if you want to fly under 250 grams, you're going to have to choose a battery that will keep the weight under 250 grams. This, what have we got here? A 450 milliamp 3 cell, what's that going to do to it? Rompson, okay? This 800 3 cell with an XT60 and some heavy leads, what is that going to do? Let's put that on. It's getting close. What about this generic useless thing here, 3 cells? Miles away. Now I do have some other batteries on charge at the moment. I'll go and get them so we can see what difference they'll make. Okay, here is a 850 milliamp 3-cell Turnigy 25 to 45C nanotech battery. These are actually quite good. I like these. They work really well. There you go, for those who are playing along at home. Put that on there, and it comes in at 240. Now, I haven't put my little adapter lead on yet, this little thing here, because that's got a JST connector. What happens if I put that on as well? 242, so we're still under 250 grams. Now, I have a 4-cell version of that battery, the 850. That's going to definitely take it over the 250 gram mark. So if you're going to go 4 cells, you're probably looking at, as they say in the book, 500, 550, something like that, 554 cell, if you want to stay under the 250 gram limit. But if you don't care about that weight limit, then we'll see how it flies with the 850. Hopefully it'll give us some slightly longer flight times. And one thing I like about the ViFly products is they come with a manual, and it's not just a piece of A4 paper, it's actually a manual, and it gives you a lot of the stuff that you might want to know. It's easy peasy, child could read this. It tells you how to bind it if you've got. Now this caught me out for a bit. This arrived in the box. There was no indication what sort of receiver was in it. I looked at the back and thought, looks like a FreeSky receiver. But then I read in the manual here that this was a FlySky, and it tells you that you can get the where is it? Somewhere around here. Receiver, FlySky FSA8S 8-channel PPM receiver. And I thought, it doesn't look like a FlySky receiver. And the other machines I think that ViFly have sent me have had the what have we got? Yeah, they've had the FlySky. I think this is one here, is it? I think it's had the FlySky in it. I'm not sure. I have to check actually. So I thought it was FlySky. So I tried to bind it to the FlySky transmitter with no luck at all. And then I thought, what am I doing wrong? So I pulled it apart. And I didn't film that because I was a bit frustrated at that stage, thinking, why won't this thing bind? Of course, I didn't try the obvious. I didn't try and bind it with my Tyrannus. But when I bound it to my Tyrannus, easy peasy, piece of cake, bound up in just a couple of seconds, as FreeSky gear usually does. And that meant I was able to go through with Betaflight, because it comes with Betaflight on the F4, and set up the settings the way I like them, with an ARM switch, with a flight mode switch, and with the beeper switch. Now, it's worth noting that if you buy this as a sort of ready to fly with the transmitter, you'll get the flight modes on one of the switches on your transmitter, but it will be arming through the left stick. So I'm not a fan of arming through the left stick. Ever since the time I flew to a great height and thought, let's do an inverted spin, flipped it upside down, pushed the stick over and disarmed it, because I had the throttle down. Just disarmed. And of course, it wouldn't rearm, so that was a very interesting experience which was not to be repeated. So I have since then always used a switch for arming. It's just so much easier, because also it's quicker to disarm if you've crashed and it's upside down and trying to chew lumps out of the ground. So there you go, little thing, little bit you need to know. Now, it did come with an accessory pack, which is some 3M Velcro by the look of it. Maybe that's for your battery, I don't know. Some grommets, I don't know what those are. Well, they're sort of grommety feet things. Maybe they replace the feet that are on there, because some little rubber, little sort of foamy feet. But they're not the same as the ones that come with the quad, so I don't know what that's all about. I've got no idea. They look like feet. Maybe if you want harder feet, I don't know. But anyway, I don't think there's a mention of them in the manual, so it's kind of like, it's an intelligence test, which I have ultimately failed abysmally. Oh, what a shame. Never mind. So what I'll show you now is I'll just quickly walk you through some of the cool features on this quad, which is just like the other ViFly quads, which make them a little bit different to many of the other products on the market. Right, what I've done here now is I've just plugged in this crap arsehole battery, which is hasn't got much charge. You can see first of all it tells us 11.5 volts on the battery, if you can see that. Hopefully I'll just tip this up, but maybe that'll be a bit clearer, I don't know, the lighting. Then CA1, and I think that is because you can change your FPV transmitter power, the band and the channel, and these CA1, obviously that's probably, I don't know, band C, power level A, channel 1. I haven't looked, I can't remember, it's in the manual, so I will make sure that I set this up correctly. But it gives you all that information, and the easy peasy thing is that along the side here you've got your connector for your flight controller programming. You've got a switch here for changing your channel and your power and everything on your FPV transmitter, and then you've got your bind button here, so you can bind it to another transmitter, which is really handy if you want to let a mate have a go, and he's got a transmitter, and he might be mode 2, you're mode 1 or whatever, and you can just rebind in the blink of an eye. It's really handy. There you go, and of course there's little lights at the back which tell you the arm status and things like that. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the book. So yeah, I'm bored with this. Let's go and fly the damn thing. Oh, by the way, in this thing you also get an Allen key wrench, because this thing's got squillions of Allen keys, and some spare screws and little fibre washers, because some of the little screws have fibre washers under them so that they don't short out against the circuit board, because the top part of this thing is indeed a circuit board. And this little board under here is the ESC board. This is, I like this, a clever bit of engineering here. Now, let me just talk about it for a moment. I'll unplug it first so it's not in the way. There you go. Now, this board you can see under there, that's the 4 ESCs. It's a 4-in-1 ESC board. And so it means we don't have ESCs on the arms, but it means the ESCs are out in the airflow where they're going to stay cool. That's a really important thing. A lot of these little quads, there's not a lot of room, so you need to do quite a bit of engineering to fit stuff in. And if there's no real room to put an ESC on that arm, you could squeeze one in, I suppose, but it's going to be messy. This way the arms just have the wiring, and if you put the ESCs inside the body, how do they get cooled? Well, hey, stick them up here under this platform, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, great. And also, if you are unfortunate enough to burn out an ESC, it's easy to replace because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, lift that metal plate off, and this board simply plugs in. It's got connectors at each end, which you can't probably see. Anyway, there's connectors under here, and there's pins. You just pull it off, push it, plug a new one in, Bob's your auntie, away you go. Clever thinking. The ViFly people have done a good job in engineering this thing. I'm quite impressed. And I should point out that this isn't a competitive high-speed racing quad, although I expect it'll perform rather well. But it is designed for the market where someone just wants to get into this thing. They want a small 130 size mini quad, and maybe they don't even have any radio gear. Go out and buy the ViFly package, and you're getting everything in a box, which is kind of nice, and it's documented. And in the past, it's just worked. We'll take it out and see whether it just works this time, because we don't know until we try. So battery's charging, and once they're done, I'm heading off to the park. Have a fly. Come with me. Okay, here we go. We're going to try with the 4-cell pack, try an FPV flight, and this will be a maiden, so it will be interesting to see what happens. The weight of the XT60 does add somewhat to the overall weight of the thing. Hoping this is, yeah, I think the wires are out of the way. Bend that back a bit so it's clear, but not much clearance between the top of the battery and the antenna. But let's go and give it a fly and see what happens. 4-cell pack, fully charged, 850 milliamps. This really does seem to burn through batteries. Let's see if that is the case with this fully charged battery. I won't hammer too hard, so it'll be hopefully indicative of what we might normally get. Recording now. Let's go. Let's do a circuit of this sports screen. Oh, my camera's not high enough. I should have put more tilt on my camera. You know what happens when you do that. I think I'll come back and change it because it's really... I had tilt on it before. The last landing must have knocked it level. So I'm going to come in and do a landing and fix up that tilt. That's just not good at the moment. The sun's coming out. That's got to be good because this CMOS camera doesn't like the low light too well. So okay, let's go and fix that. Yeah, I've got about 45 degrees on this camera now. That should be a whole lot better. A whole lot better. These, I say the all my commanders, getting the damn things lined up on your eyes is a bit of an issue. They just don't really. My right eye is always blurry for some reason. I don't know why. It's not in the sky zones, but it is on this. So let's have another go. Let's go. That's better. Now we got some forward focus on there. That's good. It really is quite quick. It is a very fast little quad. I've got to say, for the size, it's hard not to use all that throttle because it really cranks, and a lot of jello, I'm afraid. That's what you get with CMOS sometimes. There's a lot of jello, but if it's speed you want, this thing's got it in bucket loads. It's so fast for a little 130, but I'd expect that with that brushless motor. It is, it honks. Woohoo, it's really good. Woohoo. Ooh, dives, yay. It's nice. I feel fully in control of this thing, which is unusual for me. The Parkies has blown up a bit today, so some of the jello might be caused by my thumbs on the sticks, but this thing is really nice. Ah, it's one of the best little micro quads I've flown actually, and I've flown a few, but it is just so nice. Oh, it is a delight. It is a delight to fly. For ViFly, their other stuff is not really that peppy, but this thing has just got, it's got droves of power at a price that I think the camera is actually dipped down again. It might need a bit of firmer rubber in there because it seems to have gone back to level. Don't know, but oh, this thing is just a fun little machine, and no one could really complain about the size of it or the risk that it might pose to people. It is brill. I love this thing. Oh, one of my new best quads. So yeah, I'm thinking that ViFly are onto a winner. As I say, battery could be the only issue. We're already down to 14.1 volts, which is not a good start. So we've had a couple of minutes, I think, though. I'm not sure. You'll be able to tell by looking at the video timestamp, I suppose. But oh, this is a delight. I'm liking this thing more and more. Woohoo! Look at that. That's brill. And as you know, I'm not a great freestyler or racer, so and I can't go through those gates because they've got nets. Sorry about that. But this is just honking nice. It feels so good on these passes. It's lovely. We've got the battery just flashed a bit then, so we get a bit low. I haven't heard the buzzer on it. It's got a beeper on it. Haven't heard the beeper. And it's got quite it's beeping now. It's got quite aggressive roll rates and everything out of the box, which is good. Oh, no, I'd have to give this a thumbs up as a flying machine. What are we on to now? 3 minutes for a flight, was it? Maybe a bit less, I'm not sure. And that camera angle is okay, it's just it was going so fast. I had a lot of pitch on, didn't realise it, but I'm running out of battery quickly now. So throttle's getting a bit soft, so this is fantastic. I give this a thumbs up from a flying point of view. This is nice, the F4 controller and everything. Really good. There we go, we've landed. Fantastic, I love it, it's brilliant. Nice little quad. My goodness, didn't even have to walk for it. Look at that. This is really nice. I like this thing. Yeah, this is going on my. This is going to stay in the truck. So whenever I'm out, I've always got a quad to fly. Love it. There you go. Let's go back to the studio and have some final summary thoughts on this thing. There we go. What do you make of that, eh? I can quite confidently say that if you're looking for a sub 250 gram quad with good performance, really good engineering, and only a few negatives, then this is something well worth considering. Now, it's not cheap. It isn't, but the best things in life usually aren't cheap. And you'll have to make the decision as to whether you think it represents good value. Certainly, if you can afford it, you won't regret buying it, as far as I can tell. I mean, I had a ball with this thing, really good. Now, let's look at the pros. It's well engineered. I mean, that 4-on-1 ESC sitting out there in the airflow, that's brilliant. What a great idea. It's not going to overheat. It's not going to, cause it to pop prematurely. We've got that wonderful LED system here, and the button on the side gives you full control over your FPV power, your FPV band, and your FPV channel. Wonderful, no fiddling around with dip switches or trying to get through holes and things and everything. It's all accessible and obvious, and that display shows you exactly where you're up to, including your battery voltage. One of the things that I find really annoying is sometimes when I'm flying and I've got 4 or 5 batteries and I can't remember which ones have I used. Oh, because I'm really disorganized. Plug it in, there's your voltage, right on there. You don't even have to put your goggles on and look on the OSD. It's just right on there. So fantastic. Now, this was the bind and fly, and it bound really easily, and of course you have to go into Betaflight and set up your bits and pieces. So anyone buying the bind and fly, you will need to know how to set up Betaflight and so forth, but hey, that's just that's the price of bind and fly. If you buy the ready to fly, then you won't have to do that, but I would like to see on the ready to fly that the transmitter was set up differently. I don't like arming on a stick, I'd like it on a switch, but that's sort of again, it's a personal preference. And what else can I say? The antenna is well protected. You're not going to break that. Let's look at some of the negatives, because there are a couple of negatives that need to be considered. Now, the first of those, as I already mentioned, is maybe specific to me, but it's the use of the XT30. Now, the XT30 is a good choice. It's a good choice from a purely technical and engineering point of view because it'll handle the current, and it's nice and convenient. But I haven't got a lot of batteries. Well, I've got one battery with an XT30 connector, and it's a crap battery, so I had to make up the little adapter leads. So if you're buying one of these, make sure you also get some batteries with the XT30, or build yourself some adapter leads. That can be a bit of a negative if you're already flying stuff and you don't have that. Another negative is the camera. I mean, I've said in the past that these cameras are, as for a CMOS, they're not too bad. Today it showed the worst traits of the CMOS when I went out on my first flight. There was that grey sheety cloud which really makes CMOS cameras struggle, and this struggled. The ground was black, and the light handling just wasn't really very good. Also, I noticed there's jello on this. Now, none of the other ViFlys that I've had, like this one, never had any jello. It's got the same camera, but there was no jello. This one has jello, and it's a fact of life with CMOS. I'm seriously thinking that I may actually replace this with the Runcam Swift Micro 2. That would turn this from a really good quad into a fantastic quad, because I say the camera on cloudy days, meh. On a sunny day you won't notice it, and once you're really barreling along you don't notice the jello, but it is something that if you're picky you'll might be not happy with. These props, as I said, they're not the most efficient. They're paddles, and you'll notice that with that 5-inch quads we've moved on to some really nice, like the Cyclones, and they're all swoopy and they're really, really efficient. These are far from efficient. Now I haven't actually reviewed the footage that I took, so I'm not quite sure how many minutes I got out of that 4-cell battery, but it could have been better with better props. I don't know what's going to happen there. Also, and this is, to me, this is a really big negative, and maybe it's because this was an early shipment, it might be a pre-production, but I only got the props that came on it. There was no spare props, and that, I would really love to have wrung this thing out a whole lot more than I did on the test flight, but I was scared that if I have a crash on the first flight and break a prop, I can't continue with the testing. So it constrained a little bit of what I could do in the test flying. And let's face it, if you buy one of these and you spend your, hang on, let's have a look, because how much is this thing? This, as I said, it's not cheap. So let's have a look, R130 on the website here, and it says this is a racing drone. This is more of a racing drone than the 220 is. Let's go to buy now and see what it's going to cost us. Okay, if you're buying the bind and fly, it's $170 US. So that's a pretty spendy little drone. Come on, surely you can throw in $5 worth of spare props. I mean, it's going to be 5 sets, isn't it? These can't be expensive. Look how small they are. 3.5 by, well, 3 by 4.5, I think. So throw in some spare props. Come on, do the right thing. That'd be wonderful if you did. Yeah, so apart from that, 4mm carbon arms by the look of it. Super, super tough. You're not going to break those. The performance is there. Why not buy one? If you can afford it. If you can afford it, buy one. Now, the ready-to-fly version is more expensive. It comes with the FlySky i6 or 6i, whatever radio, which is not my preferred option. I wish they'd make these with a Tyrannus QX7 as an option. That would be brilliant, because the QX7 Tyrannus is fantastic value for money. The FlySky is cheap, but I've always had some issues. Long and low, the range isn't there for me. They'll fall out of the sky sometimes. And I know that Chris from iForce 2D's had similar problems with the FlySky. It is a very cheap radio, and it flies like a very cheap radio. The Tyrannus, bloody brilliant. You can go for miles, well, many kilometers anyway. But this in the ready-to-fly version is $240 US. But that means all you need is your battery and your goggles and some dry cells for the transmitter, and you're good to go. So that's, if you're looking at getting into this and you want to stay under 250 grams, that's not a bad deal, because you don't have to fart around. It all comes set up, But as I say, the only thing I'd say in the ready-to-fly package, put the arming on a switch, not on a stick. It would be so much nicer. So there you go. I'll be flying this some more until I break a prop, and I'll give you a follow-up probably in a week or so, let you know what I think of it after some time. But in the meantime, hard to pick fault in it. Hard to pick fault. Really nice. I do like it. It's going to be getting thrashed. There you go. If you've got questions, comments, put them in the usual place, and I'll do my best to answer them. Now, it is Friday today in New Zealand. I'm going to go out there and try and finish my Fixed Wing Friday project, which may or may not be done in time for the weekend, so you can have a Fixed Wing Friday on Monday. How does that work? I don't know. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.